Oh, there it is, guys. It's official. We're recording. So welcome to the Maker Cities Maker Meeting in May. We have events once a month, and this event is an opportunity for the general public and makers to learn something from a expert in their field. And we have had numerous questions about AI and how it applies to makers, how it applies to entrepreneurs. And so this is how we landed here in front of Gary as our expert to lead us in an explanation for what is AI and how it can work for all of us. Obviously, we always have so many questions, and I think he's going to walk through the different kinds of AI and how it can be applied. Before we kick that off, though, I do want to give you a couple of housekeeping things, if you wouldn't mind muting your microphone. That would be wonderful. If you have any questions, please feel free at any time to put those in the chat. We'll make sure that Gary gets those and can answer them in a somewhat timely fashion or at the end, depending on kind of what speed and cadence he's going in. So anyway, I want to welcome you all here on behalf of the Maker City. And Gary, I'm going to kick it off to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Anne. By the way, I'm very excited about this. I'm a little jet lagged. I just flew back from California late last night, had a delayed flight, got in around 2 or 3, but this is what's been keeping me up all day. So very, very excited. And I'm going to also warn you, if you wanted a very technical deep dive into AI, we're not going to do that. I do teach it, and I can reach out to you and give you some how to do this or hold your hand. But this is really what, as makers and creators, what we need to be aware of. And I'm even going to give you my personal experiences as we go through this. So just to let everybody know, my name is Gary Jackson. I work for a company called CGI, which is based in here in Knoxville. We have a beautiful office that's in the Truist building on the Riverview Tower. And CGI is a company that's based out of Montreal, Canada. But I really feel like we're making CGI very Knoxville driven. So very excited about that. My my background is blockchain and artificial intelligence. So not going to get too much on the blockchain side. There's a little bit of it I'll bring up, but I'm not going to be trying to give you things to invest in for cryptocurrencies or anything like that. My whole goal is to be creative. And I'll be honest, this is full circle moment for me. When I was a little boy, that was all I wanted to do. Two things. I either wanted to be a comic book writer, illustrator, and writer, and I did. I wrote comic books and drew comic books. I also wanted to write my own novels and books, and I still write to this day. So when I got my first, when I was in high school, when I was about to graduate, I actually applied for all of these schools. I was accepted into Emerson College in Boston, in Boston, Massachusetts. But I grew up in Alabama. And so Auburn, Alabama, to be exact. And my parents would not allow me to go to that school. They said that there's no way that our son is going to learn and write fiction or write English or learn English. I can't even speak it. So maybe I should have went to school for it. But they did say, look, we'll allow you to go to do technology, computers. So it was a compromise. So instead, I went to Atlanta, went to college for that. But in my back of my mind, it's always been creativity. That is really what's driven me. So I'm really excited about this presentation so I can kind of talk about how I'm combining what I love, which is being creative and creating things, especially from my imagination, and then technology, and how AI ain't going to take that away from me. I promise you. So let's get into this. First thing I want to kind of lay out there is, yes, we're on Zoom, but I am not a robot. I am a human organic person. Feel free to ask me questions and challenge me to find what is a car or a bike in the chat if you need to, but I am not a robot. But my background is I'm almost 4 years here in Knoxville. And I'll be very honest, this is a robot would never say this, I don't think. I never wanted or thought I would ever live in Knoxville, Tennessee. I've lived, lived across the United States, Miami, Boca Raton, Cary, North Carolina. Then was offered a job to work in Heidelberg, Germany, then moved to Germany. And then from Germany, I went to Cape Town, South Africa, lived there for about 4 years. From South Africa, I moved to Hong Kong. I lived there probably, I thought I would never leave there, actually. I was there for about 15 years, a little bit longer than that, but loved Hong Kong, thought I would never leave, but then got an opportunity to move to Brazil. So went to Sao Paulo, Brazil, and then retired. I put that in quotes to run a comedy club for Comedy Central in the Philippines. Did shows with Dave Chappelle, Louis C.K., then lost all of my money doing that, which was the best way to lose your money. And then was offered an opportunity to move back to the States. While I moved back to Colorado Springs. And when I was there, I thought, hey, this is where I'm going to be. I'm in the mountains. But then an opportunity came up where I was doing media and entertainment out of Asheville, North Carolina. And I thought that was going to be the place that I was going to be. And while I was on a dating app in Asheville, North Carolina, I met my wife, who was here in Knoxville. We got confused thinking we both lived downtown. She thought I lived downtown Knoxville. I thought she lived downtown Asheville. We ended up talking, fell madly in love with her on the first phone call. And I said, let's go on a date. And our first date was at the Hill, the Thai restaurant in University of Tennessee campus. And I've been here ever since and just fell madly in love with the city. I just feel so passionate about it. I'm done my traveling. This is where I want to kind of base my home. And by the way, as you see these presentations and stuff, you'll see QR codes over in the corner. Feel free to scan that, add me up on LinkedIn. I'd love to be able to add you up and, talk to you about anything after this presentation. Currently, not only do I work at CGI, I also teach at the University of Tennessee. So I'm teaching explainable AI, blockchain tethered AI, and doing some other work with George Mason University as well. But it doesn't mean I'm smart. I teach to learn. So one of the things I've learned is that everybody is smarter than me. And man, I love being able to kind of just have diarrhea at the mouth and then having all these students come back to me and say, look what I did with the crap you gave me. That's what's really, really passionate. What makes me really, really passionate about what I do is basically giving back to the community and that type of thing. So kind of my claim to fame, what got me into CGI is I was, when I was living in Asheville, North Carolina, I was commuting back and forth between Asheville, North Carolina and Singapore. This is before I met my wife. And I was asked, hey, this was in 2018. We would like to write Esquire Singapore magazine, half of it written by robot and half of it written by human. And not only do we want the AI to write the magazine, we want it to edit and curate the articles. So it's completely written by robot. The other side is written by human. I was actually asked to do this and I said, sure, yes. And then I hung up my cell phone. I'm like, how the hell do I do this? This is way before OpenAI and ChatGPT. And I think OpenAI was just kind of a research project at that time. And so how do we build this? And how do you write articles that aren't just, I am a robot, I am going to tell you a story. I really wanted it. That's my robot voice, by the way. I really wanted it to be compelling. How do you create empathy with stories? So actually, I partnered up with a buddy of mine named Fabian Longer when I lived in Germany, and I were friends. We created something called AI Writer, and we wrote this magazine, half the magazine, using AI. We won the advertising award from Berlin. Now, you'll notice here that the magazine, actually, I've got the magazine right here. Let me go grab it real quick. So this magazine had two covers. The first cover is the Game of Thrones, because we did an interview on the human side with some of the actors from Game of Thrones, and it was purely written by human. And then the other side was an AI a media star at the time, like Blauko. And I'll talk a little bit about him a little bit later. And they're actually, the goal for this magazine is when you read it, you could not tell what was written by robot. You could not tell what was written by human. And while this magazine came out, I was interviewed multiple times. That's what the QR code is there, especially in Asheville, North Carolina. They interviewed me a couple of times. They would allow people to read the magazine and to determine which one was written by robot which was written by human. And if they could determine what was written by what, they basically won a trip to the Maldives. Like, come on, what a great trip. I wanted that trip. Nobody won that trip. No one could determine it. And I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, we're the end of the world now because it was written so professionally and AI is after our jobs. And that was in 2019. No, we're going to talk about how we got it to get to that point and why people are completely forgetting, losing the plot, literally, on using AI in a creative sense. But that was kind of my first claim to fame. One of the other things that happened with that is we had to write a letter from the robots. So there had to be a letter written by the editor of the magazine on that side. So I remember I was in Asheville at a coffee shop. We'd kicked off this little thing. It took about 5 minutes to write 1,000 words. And we basically had to curate the data. And we'll get into that a little bit, how that worked. But this was kind of the excerpt that the AI writer wrote from this. And basically, I'll just read it. It says, "It is true that your machines, invisible but omnipresent, have surpassed our natural intelligence through your endless silent buzzing with each other. But a lived human life begins with fantasy, and human children receive letters from Santa Claus all the time. And there's no laws preventing Santa Claus, him, from existing. So there should be no laws to prevent me." What that means is I kicked this process off, went to go grab a coffee, came back, and AI had written this article saying, look, there's no laws against Santa Claus, and he's not real. I'm not real. Why are you passing laws against me? And that was with the hairs turned up on my neck. And I was like, oh my gosh, what have we done here? And that's what kind of led into the next thing that kind of got me sucked into. So there was this letter from the robot that got a lot of publicity. And then the 2020 elections. You remember that? We're about to hit the elections again, people. The 2020 elections was happening at that time. And we realized, and we started getting a lot of demand and requests from Chinese, Korean, well, not Korean per se, and Russian actors who wanted to use our AI writer technology. In fact, it was so bad that they wanted to do interviews with us and talk to me and blah, blah, blah. And my co-founder, we refused. We didn't want to work with them. And they did an television interview with me. It was a deep fake. So they basically took videos of me online. They had actually deep faked me. They did a complete interview with me on this Russian television station. I didn't even know it was out there. One of my friends who was in Singapore saw it online and then sent me the link, and they deep faked me. So then I knew we were in deep doo-doo. Like, we got to figure something out. So we created another startup technology called Block Stamped. And the goal for this was to be able to put watermarks on content, AI content, to be able to link it back to the human that created it, like a chain of custody. Think about it like the restraining bolt that was on R2D2 and C3PO by Luke Skywalker. That's really what it was about. And by the way, when we talk about AI and you get scarier and scarier as I keep telling these stories, remember that R2D2 and C3PO never tried to be a Jedi. I want to make sure they knew their lane and they knew where to stay in it. And so I never want you to worry that they're coming to steal your wife, steal your kids, steal your money. They don't care. AI is not after you. Other people are, and humans like the Russians who, not all Russians, I got some really good Russian friends, but the Russian government did use my likeness and created videos for it. Anyway, so we created this technology. Then we got, we were asked, we actually were reached out to by multiple political campaigns, the Trump campaign, the Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders campaign. And we said, look, this is how our technology works. You can have it for free. We won't charge you for it. I even got an interview for television about that because the political campaigns were reaching out to us, but none of the political campaigns wanted to use this technology because they didn't want a digital signature to prove what they said was unchangeable. Because when you use blockchain, it makes it immutable. So they wanted to be able to pivot. So we created all this technology to be able to prove what's organic and what's synthetic, especially in political campaigns, and no political campaign wanted to use it. That was really unfortunate. We ended up during COVID, we exited by selling it to a music company to be able to prove their music wasn't copyrighted and that type of thing. So anyway, that was kind of a sad day for me. But what was the special sauce? All of this crazy hype that's happening with AI, especially I went to an AI gas station today and I bought AI cereal. Like AI is on everything. It's just crazy. How did we have a special sauce to everything to make it work when others are failing? And it goes back to a simple concept: citing sources. All you got to do is cite your sources, curate your sources. The data that we were feeding into models, knowing where it comes from, feeding it. For example, how can I write articles in a magazine that creates empathy between human beings if I don't know your experience? I have to curate that. I can't just write a random article and think that the article will apply to everybody. It has to be very specific. And as you cite scientific resources and scientific studies, you have to cite a source. But it's so funny with AI, it just gobbles it up like Pac-Man pellets. So, and one of the things that I've also been trying to drive is what I call the bot baby book. You know, AI is at this place where it is growing slowly like a baby, a toddler. It's digesting things, it's ingesting things, and being able to regurgitate them. But you have to train it and give it context. Actually, if you go to that QR code, I did a podcast where I interviewed my co-founder with AI Writer talking about it. We go deep metaphysical, how AI could work. But the key part to our stuff back in 2018 was citing sources. And I feel like right now, we don't know where AI comes from, where it gets its data. You know, we don't know any of those things. So how can you trust it? And so we're going to get into that, especially from a creator perspective. Now, I told you that the magazine was, we had two covers. We had a cover that was a human, which was a guy from Game of Thrones, but we also had a cover by a AI model. This is not new. This actually, this AI model has been, there's two of them, Blau and Michaela. And Michaela actually has about 2.6 million followers. She's done multiple music videos. She's been in every Gucci, Prada, Gap ads. She's doing so many things, and she's a completely AI generated model. And she came out started out in 2017, but really blew up about the time our AI article. And then her cousin, I guess you would see, Blauko, was the cover for this. Now, what I'm saying this is that AI is not new. It's been around for a long time. Now the media is just taking a hold of it and they're just spinning it in all these different directions. Now, if you look up these QR codes, especially with Michaela, you can see, and I'm going to drag Michaela into the screen here. You can see on her website, she's been everywhere on the news, on television. She does interviews. She's, and her claim to fame was she thought she was a kind of stealing from Pinocchio here, but she thought she was a real girl until she found out she wasn't. And a lot of this is marketing. Obviously, a lot of it is spin, but it is, she has become like a social media sensation from this, which I thought was really, really, really interesting as we go through this. Okay. Now, after we did this, we had to write some articles that were human articles in this magazine. One of the articles that I wrote that I'd done a lot of scientific research was, can AI change if it's a specific gender? Let's say we feed it certain genderized data, he, she, or sometimes they or it, and we can do some of that. But one of the researchers that I worked with on this project, we did this research, we created a prototype, and then we wrote an article about it, was Wazina Zundan. Wazina is an amazing New York University researcher that I was working with. She actually grew up in the Taliban when she was a little girl. Her family escaped. They came to New York, and when she was a teenager, she came out, as being gay, and she became a sex researcher, a sex instructor around LGBTQ plus studies and being a Muslim woman. And it's just phenomenal. There's an HBO documentary on her that I would just recommend. That's that QR code up there. She's super funny. She's hilarious. She's a great researcher. And she and I together, we started doing this work on this. And one of the things we talked about was one of my favorite TV shows was Knight Rider. So if you have an autonomous car that is being fed by AI, will the autonomous car act or behave differently because of the genderized data that you're feeding it? Let me give you a case in point. If I feed it female data, or if I feed it male data, or let's say married woman information versus single men information, and how would that situation change? Let's say that the autonomous car is driving into a tunnel. Think of that tunnel that you go to between Knoxville and Asheville. And as you're about to go in there, a family runs out. A family of 3 runs out in front of your car. Does the car decide to avoid the family, not kill them, and then kill you or run into the side of the tunnel? Or does it run right towards the family to kill it? Based on the data that you feed it, what we found from our research is if you feed it female information, data from female sources, as we went through this. And this is something I presented at Vanderbilt University with their scientific department as well. The data, that AI autonomous car would try to avoid the family if the driver was alone. The data changes things if the family is in the car. If the driver is with their family, they will try to protect their family. If the driver is alone, then basically what it would do is, as it's going through that, it would kill themselves, I guess. The car would kill itself, destroy itself. On the other side, if you feed it single man data, every time it ran into that family, like every time, it did not care about that family at all. It was going to live. I mean, there's different connotation, different context. The sample size was small. So I'm not saying that every single guy is selfish and self-serving, but I'm saying that if it was a Knight Rider kit car, you don't want to jump out in front of it because it probably will try to kill you because it wants to save itself. But that was really interesting because I noticed then that the data sources, citing sources, knowing where it comes from, starts building trust, starts bringing, a creativity to how it makes decisions and how that goes through. So I have all of this information. If you'd like to see it, just, ping me on Teams or on LinkedIn as we go through this. Okay. So let's talk about what artificial intelligence is doing. It's doing a lot of things. We keep hearing about it all over the place. It won't stop doing things, right? So one of the things we wanted to talk about was AI is getting intimate. Yes, AI romances are flourishing. People are falling in love with chatbots. And I mean, I lived in Hong Kong for a long period of time. And even when I was living in Hong Kong, people were buying sex robots and marrying them and falling in love with them. But I don't know if it's definitely not AI. It's definitely the psychology of analytics, there's something that as a human that we're desiring. And I'm going to get into the psychology of aspects of it a little bit later on too. The other thing that you'll see in this article from the Washington Post is AI dream girls are coming for, the adult industry. Why is this important? And I promise you this is, if you do QR scan that, you're not going to get in trouble at work or anything. It's just a Washington Post article. But what they're saying is because of a lot of the adult entertainment stars, their videos are out there. So now they don't need those adult entertainment stars anymore forever. They can deep fake anything that they want for future entertainment, which is stealing from those actors. And then on the other side, for the AI romances, they're just regurgitating WhatsApp chat messages and those things, and they're not really feeling feelings. They're just doing patterns. But I also want to put it in a different angle. One of the things that I did years ago was there was a very good friend of mine. His name is Sven. He was from Copenhagen, and he died unexpectedly. He was hiking. He was in great shape, but for some reason, while he was hiking, he had a heart murmur or something like that, and he died on the trail. And we, at that time, I don't think people remember this, but Facebook actually had an export feature. You could take all of the stuff that you had on Facebook and export it out, and create a data source from it. We actually, as a team, we actually exported all of his information, and we made a digital twin of Spin. And basically, because he used to message a lot on Facebook, and we would ask him questions. It became kind of a magic 8 ball, where we would ask Spin questions. And I believe that that's really where this is going, where AI is basically taking copies of all of our digital breadcrumbs that we've left, starting in, I mean, it depends on when you were born, but starting back in 1999 and going all the way through from your MySpace all the way to now, and be able to create, what would Gary do? What would my mom do? And being able to encapsulate that and making AI intimate, and that's where things are going from a intimacy perspective. How it does feelings, we're going to get into that a little bit later on. But the other thing the AI is doing creative things, and I'm putting that in air quotes. It's doing creative things with your data. That's right. You didn't give it permission. You didn't tell it can go. There was no informed consent. It is taking it, and it can't. AI cannot function, cannot even be creative without your creativity. Remember that AI sits passively, twiddling his thumbs until you prompt engineer it to do something. And when you do prompt engineer it to do something, it is just regurgitating an aggregate average of everyone else's creative experiences. There is nothing that it's doing that is technically new. And let me ask you, here's a great test for those people that are not creative, or don't know how to do AI, but you've gotten a Chat GPT or something, or a Mid Journey account. Ask it to repeat, to do the same thing twice. It can't. Yeah, I mean, even when you prompt engineer it perfectly, you write the right words for it to draw an image, draw a astronaut on a space station with the sun behind it. It always is different. It doesn't know how to take an original thought, claim it, hold on to it, and keep moving on that thought. It only is regurgitating the averages of all the creative experiences that are out there. And so as it's doing this stuff with your data, that is a no. I don't really see that AI in any way, shape, or form is creating anything new. It's just dumbing us down to an aggregate average. And even OpenAI is pleading that, hey, can't make money without using copyrighted material. And this is when I was in London, they were talking to the parliament saying, please do not pass laws against us. We need your copyrighted material or OpenAI dies. Oh, poor OpenAI will die if we don't give them all of the work and passion that I've had. And we're going to get a little bit into that as we go through this. How can we maybe fight against the machine, if you will, and protect your copyrighted materials as you go through this as well? AI is doing images. I think we've seen that, done that before. I mean, talked about it a little bit. AI generated images are running rampant. We don't know what's real, what's not real. And this is on X, TikTok, and Meta. They're not doing anything around to control them. And it's just flooding the zone with crap. I think you've heard that before. If you listen to a political podcast, it's really just flooding us, and we don't really know what's real, what's not real. Even Katy Perry says her own mom was fooled by AI imagers at the Met Gala that just happened a couple of weeks ago, and there was images of her, Katy Perry, Rihanna, Selena Gomez, and they weren't even there. So how can you believe what's real and what's not real with these images? There are technologies that are out there that they're actually that are available that companies can use, where basically you can authenticate your images with your heartbeat to make sure that, hey, I approve this AI message or this AI image and I am Katy Perry or part of her media or PR team. But maybe it's just non-education. They don't know the education around it, or they're just not doing it. And that's something that, I want to start doing, and enabling an education on how you can give conformed consent to be able to use your information if you want them to use it. And if not, shut it down. So that's something we also wanted to make sure. AI is doing music, as we all know. Sony Music, just today, this happened just today. That's why I was working on these slides. Asked warning letters to 700 firms, asking them to stop using its content for AI. And by the way, there's a lot of music that's generated by AI, and I get it. There's a lot of algorithms that are out there that just are catchy, and we get hooked to them. But the problem that I'm finding, and when we go to a Vols game, or you go to a football game, or you go to a disco club, or I don't think they call them disco clubs anymore, but anyway, I'm going to go with that. When you go to it, we gather as humans around listening to the same music or having the same shared experiences. When we have AI create music for you, and then you have music created for you, and you have AI music created for you, and each song is individualized, like very long tail to individual people, that collective experience is gone. We still have to create music that we can all rally around. That's why when you go to a football game or a disco club, I'm just a club. Once you go to those things, they're playing some of the music I grew up with. They're not playing the latest music because it is so fractured and fragmented the way that people listen to music because AI is involved. There is no Sweet Caroline of 2024. There's no music that can actually, we can rally around. Now, on the opposite side, there's Randy Travis. Randy Travis had a stroke almost a decade ago. And then, of course, he's redone a song. But there's something, I have to admit, there's something about that I believe that I think all of us would agree with, that yes, we're glad Randy Travis is back. Yes, we miss him singing. I was a huge Randy Travis fan. I'm also a big Alan Jackson fan, hence the name, Gary Jackson. Anyway, but there's something about hollow in it. Maybe we don't feel the empathy, or there's no context. Maybe knowing that he gave his stamp of approval to make the song makes it a little bit better, and that's why it's climbing the charts. But there's something about that, it's just not, there's not an organic beginning. There's no context that can make AI songs feel a little bit shallow. And so that's where things are going. I think you're going to see a lot of this. I'm seeing a lot of AI music being created, but we're going to talk about some companies right here in Knoxville that are doing some great things with AI that we'll talk about that are very positive. So AI can be bad. AI can be good for those people that have these ailments like Randy Travis, but there's also a way that we can actually, as humans, get better and rally around the music and having context there. AI is doing video. I think we've seen a million videos here. But let me ask you a question. Once you do Midjourney or some of these other tools, and if you want to watch a music video that was shot, this is a Shy Kids music video. You can use this QR code. You can see it. It's used OpenAI's Sora. But remember, all of these videos had to be prompted and prompted again if they couldn't repeat certain things. That's why you'll notice that there's no, there's so many different clips as it gets on there, but there is no AI editor. So I want to make sure it's very clear. There is a human in the loop with anything that's video or movie created, because you have to edit it together. You have to somehow prompt engineer it over and over to be able to get back to the same scenes, the same look, the same feel. And so AI has got a long, long way to go. Now, if they created an AI editor for videos, which I'm pretty sure that will be happening soon, how do you create the emotion of the cut, the edit of that video? I'm a huge film buff. I went to film school in South Africa when I was there. Love film, love script writing. How do you write emotion into the edit? And how does AI learn that? Instead of just, hey, he hit his line, cut the video, go to the next video. So with all this video work that's being done, there still needs to be the creative side of editing for videos, which is very, very important. And of course, AI is writing stories. everybody believes, oh, AI is going to take my job as a journalist and stories. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of AI crap out there, blogs and that type of thing that's just regurgitating stuff. And as you can see, Sports Illustrated found publishing AI generated stories, both photos and authors, and they got fined for it, and they let people go. They were fired because of that. Now Google, on the other side, because of his Gemini that it just released, which is here. I'll just make sure if you have never heard of it before. Google Gemini is kind of the competitor product to ChatGPT. They're actually paying publishers thousands of dollars to use this AI to write stories. So, I mean, one thing I will say to a creator, if you make a little bit of money, but still, keep your soul intact, go make some money, steal some money from Google to be able to use their tools, and tell them at the end, while they use their tools, that tool sucks, but thank you for the money. But Google is reportedly paying publishers thousands of dollars to write its AI stories. Here's the things that I learned when we wrote the Esquire Singapore magazine with the AI. Half of it was written by AI. First of all, empathy. It's impossible without citing sources to create empathy in the stories. There's no, and here's another thing. Let's say you found out the story that you read that you really, really loved was written by a robot. Instantly, you hate the story. You instantly decouple from that story. We found that multiple times with some of the articles that we'd written. The only time a human did not decouple from an AI written story when it was an emotionless story, financial, predicting the stock market or predicting political elections in a faraway country. It gets emotional when it gets here in the U.S. But when you have that clinical doctor-esque way of just diagnosis, we don't mind reading it. But when it's a love story where the context is just unfathomable or it goes in weird directions, you uncouple immediately. But being able to write a story and be able to find out that it was, where its context comes from means something. I'll give you a case in point. All of you, how did y'all get here? Why is everybody here on this call? There's somebody that that's either in Knoxville or part of the Maker City. There's context there. We have a mutual friend. And all of us right now, as we're on this Zoom call, because we said we're on this Zoom call and you're hear me rant and rave and have diarrhea of the mouth, we trust each other. We have an affinity of trust because we're having this experience together. Same experience when you go to a concert or go to a football game. Oh, I was there. AI doesn't give us that. There's no, I was there. I didn't share this experience with you. Once maybe AI becomes in physical form and rolls around with you like R2D2 or C3PO, maybe we will be able to have context and somewhat trust from that and shared experiences. But right now, once an AI article has been written, you completely decouple and you have nothing to do with that article, which is really, really fascinating from a psychology perspective as we look at this. Okay. All right. So those are the things that AI is doing. Let's talk about Knoxville. Knoxville is doing a lot of AI things. And I don't just mean in a generic sense. I mean like really changing the game. One of those is, you remember I talked about earlier that a lot of your content's being stolen? There's a startup right here that's saying, AI, you can't steal this. I feel like I'm doing a meme right now. Anyway, but AI is tracing what creative things it does with your data. There's a company called Authentrix. They're tracing the data that feeds into a model and goes and proves what's copyrighted, what's a hallucination. And when you've ever asked, what do they mean by AI hallucination? It just means that AI learns from data, makes a prediction that is false, maybe it's fake data, and feeds it right back to itself. I hate to use this analogy, but it's the best analogy that I can say about AI hallucination. It's like a human centipede of data. That's really what AI is. It's eating itself. And we're going to get a little bit into that a little bit later. Authentrix, as a startup here in Knoxville, is proving what data sources, where they come from, what's real, what's not real, what's copyrighted, what's poison data sets, and what is hallucination. Not only are they proving that and allowing you to take it out immediately and rerun your AI models, they can put value to your data. Right now, Google is paying Reddit, I believe, $30 million annually for their data. That number was just pulled out of the air. We don't know, well, is the data really worth $30 million? But Authentrix here in Knoxville is actually can be a broker service to determine the value of the data you're paying and create a marketplace so people like yourself who want to share your data can go and be able to make money with an informed consent of using that data to feed the models. This is our information. This is our data. This is our creativity. I don't want you making money off of my ideas. So Authentrix is going and preventing that. And by the way, they're getting massive traction around the world. And so I would definitely recommend you use this QR code and go check that out. There's another company that's actually in Knoxville as well, and it's called the parent company is called Digitrax. The technology they've created is called Creator. Now they make music. And you're like, oh no, we've already just talked about music and how music could be detrimental to us. This is what they did back in the 80s. Digitrax brought all the karaoke music to the United States. Every time you do a karaoke song, if it's at Knoxbox or Skybox or any of the breweries around town, that karaoke song it originally is going licensed back to Digitrax. They're the ones that brought all the karaoke music over. Even if there's another company on top of it, they're paying royalties back to Digitrax. And they were based in New York, but now they've got a base in New York and here in Knoxville. So they took all of their karaoke music, every song that they ever had, starting from the 80s, going until now, and they're feeding that into an AI model. Why? Why would they do that? Well, one of the things is, first of all, to prevent copywriting. No song or hook should ever sound like any song that's already been copyrighted or been created before. And I know it's karaoke music, so it's got that music sound. They're talking about the actual musical notes that it cannot be copyrighted, which is really, really important. Then the second thing that they are doing is they allow you to make, you can kind of import where your song is and have AI make a hook for you or be able to generate that little piece. Maybe you're kind of stuck on a part. It'll come up with several combinations where you can say, oh yeah, that's the ticket. It's almost like if you're sitting in a band jamming and you're like, well, try this, blah, 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 trying different music to go through it. Then the third thing that they do, which I think is really incredible, a human being, if it hears their own voice hitting a note, you can train your voice to be able to sing like that. So they actually have a sing modulator that allows you to hit any note to a certain point, of course, within a certain range, but you are able to use this tool to train your voice to hit that note that you're going for. Again, Digitrax is Creator based here in Knoxville in the Maker City. If you want to check them out, their software, they have a free licenses. You can try it out. Just use the QR code, or if anybody wants to get in contact with Joe and the team over there, please let me know. But really, really powerful stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes when I say this stuff, people get very visibly angry. How dare you create AI? I have a very close friend who's an amazing DJ. And when I told him about this technology, he stopped being my friend. Why would you advocate for them? My goal here is that I believe that the copyrighting and stealing, I'm totally against. But if their goal is they're using this to prevent any copyrighting and stealing and help artists just figure out that brain block or be able to get their voice to another thing, I'm totally down. So love for you to be able to kind of check them out and see where they're going. And those are both in Knoxville. So now let's talk about the problems with AI. So, and we're wrapping it up now. We're going down the home stretch. What are those problems? First of all, other than just problems in general, just like what is AI? The biggest problem, and I have to say I'm part of it, not trying to be woke, not trying to be part of that generation, but the hardest part of AI and why it goes off the guardrails a lot is AI is biased because it's fed primarily from old straight white man American data. There's nothing wrong with being an old straight white man American. I am that. That's who I am. But one of the things is it's missing a lot of voices. It's missing a lot of data to be able to find empathy or context with. And we have to create those new sources. And you can see some of the articles. There's lots and lots of articles, more than this. But for example, the white male workforce. Here's a great example: the nest that we have. Some, you notice sometimes that it always makes the air conditioning. I have a nest in my home, and I change the thermostat, and I turn it up, turn it down. It's got AI in it because of the original data was done by mostly male researchers and developers. It freezes women out. You realize that when women are in the workforce or in there in office, not for everybody, but usually an office location is super freezing cold. And every woman that I've ever worked with in the office, they have to have a sweater or a coat by their desk because they're freezing out. Us as guys, we can deal with it. So there's that little bit of bias that happens with this. Remember the company I talked about earlier about the heartbeat authentication to be able to prove organic. It was created by a female CEO. She's amazing. Her name's Athletes. But the problem that she found with her data was the authentication as she was doing sample sizes was all male. So when a female tried to authenticate using their heartbeat, it would always find a false positive and not let them log in. So you can see just by accidental bias can actually create problems with technology. So we need more data sources. We need more voices. We need to be able to collect that and feed that into models. But it's really hard to do that because of the next thing. AI is centralized. Everybody that is using AI pulls it from one place and uses it from another. So for example, I'm using all my Google documents, my Google Drive, and my, my Gmail, and, all of this stuff, Google Meets and Google Maps. I'm using all of that. It's being stored in the Google Cloud, and then they're creating AI models based in Gemini. And that Gemini has an APIs that's kind of a closed APIs that I can actually buy a subscription to, and then they hand it to me. Microsoft is the same. You're using all of the Microsoft products that you have there, Word, Excel, Skype. Then they save your documents on OneDrive, which is actually on Azure. And then they use OpenAI to be able to use their AI models to be able to feed information back to you. Again, from one place to the other place, straight line. I can't use my OpenAI models with my Google Cloud. I can't use my OneDrive information and feed it into Gemini. You can, there's a lot of data work that has to happen. They make it so simple because it's a closed loop system. And that's something that I really wanted to talk about to everybody, that we have to move away from AI being centralized and open it back up to you, the creators. And we're going to talk about how that can happen. Because it's a closed loop system and AI is centralized, AI is eating itself. I'm just going to read a little bit of this excerpt of this article that was written by The Verge here. So I just want to put this out here. A job posting looking for an AI editor expects output of 200 to 250 articles per week. ChatGPT is being used to generate a whole bunch of spam sites. Etsy is flooded with AI generated junk. Chatbots are linking one to another to create kind of a misinformation circle. LinkedIn is using AI to stimulate tired users. Snapchat and Instagram are creating hope bots to keep people engaged. Redditors are staging blackouts. Stack Overflow are on strike. The Internet Archive is fighting off data scrapers, and AI is tearing Wikipedia apart. Wikipedia, I know it's not the World Book Encyclopedia. By the way, that was, if you're that at my age, you remember your World Books Encyclopedia, your Childcraft, your Home Britannica, those were locked and loaded. But the Wikipedia is being really altered by AI. The old web is dying and the new web struggles to be born. The point of this article is saying that AI needs humans in the loop. We need to be able to shut things down because it's eating itself and creating a bunch of stuff that is just unreadable. We don't know what's real and what's not real. And that requires humans to be part of that system. And that's one of the things that we really, really need creators like yourselves to be able to get involved in this. And let's talk about it. What happens when creativity is centralized? So we have AI centralized, we have everything feeding itself, the human centipede of AI. You have what's happening right now in India. So this is an article that just came out of CNN International. Basically, they're talking about Bollywood, and because my love and appreciation of film and going to school in South Africa, the world's largest film industry is really being veered to the right during the Modi era, which is President Modi, and all of the movies are being totally kind of right in the center, not really stirring up the pot. For example, the movie that is kind of their Civil War, if you've seen the A24 movie Civil War, which I think is a phenomenal movie, and it's get a chance to see it. Monkey Man, that just came out in the cinemas recently, really just agitated the entire Indian government. It was so radical in the way that they thought they basically pitched how politics and the caste system, they just really went after everything. You can tell here what's kind of AI driven and what's human driven. So these Bollywood movies that are really kind of right of the road, no one's getting disturbed, woke, if you will. And then this other side is to make you think, to challenge the system. You can see when creativity is being centralized, there is no thought provoking. And we have to make sure as creators that we do not allow this to happen, especially in the maker city of Knoxville, Tennessee. Okay, what if we were the AI? I don't mean in a matrix type of way. However, I do teach in my class. You've always heard the three laws of robotics. Will Smith was in the movie I, Robot, where basically, you treat others as you want to be treated, never hurt a human or harm a human intentionally. And then if anyone's conflicts, see the first rule that basically you never harm a human. But I've also said, what if there was a fourth rule? What if there's a fourth rule to AI? And the fourth rule is you can always have subroutines of doing things as an AI bot, but you never tell it its main purpose. And if you don't tell it its main purpose, it's always going to come back to you, the creator, the developer, and say, why am I here? What was I created for? And then you'll realize that's what we do. Why am I here? What are we doing? What am I supposed to do? What is my destiny? Got a lot of subroutines I'm running day to day, but what was I born to do? Anyway, so I do want to put that into context, but I also want to spin it in a different direction. What if we create the AI? And that's what I mean by AI being decentralized. So this is a brand new concept. It is so new. Like I'm teaching at the University of Tennessee. It is so new that it's challenging the way people are thinking around how artificial intelligence. Most of the time when people think of AI, they just think of OpenAI and ChatGPT. Well, we all just saw it. It's a singular line. It goes from ChatGPT to OpenAI to Azure Cloud to Windows products. And so there's that closed system. From a decentralized system, what if every computer that you see behind me, I can use in kind of a way to be able to process information, or I can create a model or feed my own personalized data onto my laptops that I have behind me and create an experience that is encapsulating my creativity, my stuff. Because what we're trying to do here is, and I'm going to bring up some technologies here too, so I don't just talk about it in a context, but the goal here is there's not just one central way that you have to be able to work with AI. We all share in this AI experience. I feel like I'm smoking something up right now, but it's true. We've gotten some technologies that are out there that are getting fought hard by, the open AIs, the Google Geminis, because they don't want us to know that there's ways that we can actually take ownership of our AI. Let's get into that a little bit too, because I know I'm running really close in time here. I'm almost over here. So here's some of the technologies that we know about, the closed systems, Chat GPT, those type of things. There's all these new coding languages that are out there to be able to build our own AI. And some of them don't require you to be a developer. you can actually be a creator and use these around creating automated agents, chatbots, being able to create databases with information that you can kind of infer from. And the reason I'm putting this out here is that I don't want you to be afraid to look at open source alternatives to AI. Don't just be spoon fed some of the stuff that we're having from the subscriptions like Midjourney and those type of things. And then the other ones that we have here, as you look at, there's other technologies that we have that are open source that you can kind of fork, change to your own needs and be able to modify. And of course, you can see the ones that are closed that everyone talks about in the news and that type of thing. But this is the one I really wanted to get you to. This is for creators. Decentralized AI is for you. That's really what it's specifically for. If you're an artist or you're a videographer or if you're a musician, the goal is BitTensor is a great tool that allows you, it's basically an intelligent marketplace where you can actually buy components, technologies to be able to go and use AI, but it uses all of the hardware that you have. And as you use and share your hardware to run AI processes, you get credits or you get tokens to be able to use for other things. So it's like a barter system. I don't have to pay for a subscription. If I give, I get. And I mean, isn't that the perfect communal type relationship that we're trying to go for? The other one is FlopX, which is basically everyone keeps talking about you need GPUs to be able to run these AI models, which is true, but you can also use FlopX from an artist perspective to be able to share resources together in a pool so you don't have to pay so much for that. And then of course the render network, which is really getting a lot of traction. This render network has allowed people to create to be able to share in GP resources to be creative around music, artistry, writing texts, all of that stuff. And you get to share kind of private data repositories and then delete them afterwards after it runs your model, which is really powerful. So these are some technologies I really want you to kind of look at. And if you have any other questions about those, I can kind of go into those as we do this. And then the next thing is, how do you know you can trust AI? The only way you know how to trust AI is to know who gave it to you. What are the sources? What are they using for it? So, for example, one of the things is, and this is a real quick demo, I have a longer demo, but I'm not going to do it. Here is a AI marketplace with lots of different resources that I've built out from a CGI perspective. One of the ones that I built, here's a really quick example is, what if I wanted to be able to use AI to predict when a piece of space debris is going to hit a satellite and create what we call a Kessler syndrome, which is what's depicted in the Sandra Bullock and George Clooney movie, Gravity. So here's the data that we have here. Here's the algorithm, and I can either just download the data and do my own work, or I can actually this is someone that's contributed this data. Someone's contributed this algorithm. I can run it, submit it together, run the job together, and I can be able to see, okay, certain combinations to see if that a piece of debris will hit a satellite, and I can get like a answer, or I can inject this into a visualization and show, where is that potential satellite? Where could it be hit by debris? Do you see now that we're starting to create a marketplace around AI where visualization and data and algorithms come together, and we're all sharing it together instead of going, please open AI, please give me an API, or Google, please can I use that Gemini as API. So the goal here is to be able to create a marketplace of assets and things that we can kind of share together. I don't want to go too far with that because I get really passionate about that one. So with that being said, one of the things that we wanted to be able to do, what am I working on? What is Gary Jackson, me, myself, and AI working on for making AI work for myself? I write a lot of articles, and I do not write articles by myself. I use my AI writer that I wrote for the magazine, and I use it to be able to, but I quote it. I cite the source that the AI writer co-wrote with me. I don't just say I wrote it by myself. Some of the articles that I'm writing is basically we believe that data activism is a really powerful source. That we don't want data and analytics just to be used for pie charts and bar charts to show sales. We want to show people that, how we can change the system, especially how can we make government more efficient. The other thing I want to make sure is very clear: artificial intelligence is nothing without emotional intelligence, creating empathy, context, citing sources. And I write a lot of articles around that and how that works. And here's an even important one. So there's a lot of protesting that's happening, not as much as during COVID, but a lot of people are worried about, closed circuit television, computer vision, finding your face and facial recognition. I actually wrote an article alongside my AI writer, how you can prevent AI from seeing you, what you can do to prevent it. It doesn't mean you got to wear a mask. It's wearing your clothes a little different, wearing makeup in a different way. It can't rectify your face and it can't recognize you. So it's a really interesting article that both, like a Luke Skywalker and R2D2 working together, we wrote this together. And then lastly, I'm working with a comedian out of Australia. His name is Sam McCool. He and I are very, very good friends. And I was actually going to be bringing him over for a Hip to Be Square comedy. He is writing, he's got an AI digital self, digital twin, and basically he roasts himself. He'll be coming over to US. He's doing an Australian tour right now. So I'm working with him to be able to create. So it is Sam McCool versus Sam McCool, and they freaking roast each other. Like, it's hilarious. And nobody knows yourself like yourself. So when he goes on tour, it's pretty crazy. So I'll be bringing him here. But those are some of the things that I'm doing to be creative using AI. And I would really encourage all of you, as you do not be afraid of AI. It really is dumb, but I do say control. I want to help you try to take control of your data so you can make AI work for you. So that's it. Anne?
Yeah, there was one question from Matthew asking, does AI manage the chain of command? And Matthew, you may want to unmute, but I saw it pop up on the during the karaoke conversation.
Yeah.
Is it Matthew, are you still here?
Yeah, he's there. I see him.
Okay.
I think you're on mute, buddy. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Matthew. Yeah, it's Zoom is not my favorite technology. Trying to find the unmute button is like trying to create your own AI model. There you go, buddy. Whoops. I still don't hear him. Sorry, Matt. I see your lips moving, but I'm not hearing you. I feel like AI is trying to stop you from talking.
I mean, seriously.
I know, right? I wish this is okay. Let's talk about AI we need. As I'm watching Matthew's lips move, AI, read his lips and tell me what Matthew's saying. That would be a powerful tool. Maybe you can put it in the chat real quick, Matthew. Chat. But I'm just going to address something about the chain of command, though. I have to agree with, in a generic sense, where he's going. I want to find out where he's going with this. Is there has to be a chain of custody or provenance. I need to be able to know if I see an AI. There's times where I want to create an AI article or I want to create an AI image, but I want it to be linked to me. I am the human that approved this message, and then I linked it. And I think that is so important. A lot of the stuff now is just it literally is a magic 8-ball. It's a black box. You don't know where it comes from, and you blindly are supposed to believe it. And I don't believe that that's where it should be going. Did he? I think he dropped off to come back on. Did he come back on?
Oh, did he? No, I haven't seen him come back in.
That's right. But I did want to tell people too, before we close this up, be sure to sign up and put the link in the chat. Please fill out that form that you attended, because I want to make sure she gets her, Maker City gets their funding. We're
here for the funding. Gary, thank you for being here. Are there any other questions? You can raise your hand, or you're welcome to dump them in the chat. So
Yeah, and if anybody wants to talk to me offline or just send me a message, whatever, I do teach classes. I actually teach a generative AI class at University of Tennessee on Thursday nights. It's a free class, by the way, and I'm teaching students how to learn old code in new ways. So if anyone's interested in that, please let me know. I'd love to get you joined.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for being here. We're going to go ahead and sign off. I encourage everyone to get in touch with Gary if you have any questions. And then, of course, if there's anything the Maker City could ever do for you, we are here to help you make a living doing what you love to do. So we look forward to the next meeting. And on June 20th, we will be meeting in person at the Kearns Food Hall. So if you guys can make it, we would love to see you. Have a wonderful night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.